Hey everyone! Before we dive into today's absolutely wild revenge story, I need you to do me a huge favor. If you're loving these jaw-dropping tales of people getting exactly what they deserve, smash that like button right now and drop a comment telling me what you think about this story. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible revenge stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Now, let me tell you about Rebecca. She's 29 years old, works as a nurse, and for most of her life, she thought family meant everything. She believed that being the good daughter meant always saying yes, always helping out, and always putting everyone else first. But sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most are the ones who take advantage of you the worst. Rebecca grew up in a small house in Maplewood Heights with her parents and her younger brother Tyler. From the time she was little, her mom and dad made it clear that Tyler was their golden child. He could do no wrong, while Rebecca was expected to work twice as hard for half the recognition. The morning sunlight streamed through my tiny apartment window as I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the stack of bills in front of me. Rent, utilities, groceries, student loans from nursing school. The numbers always seemed to add up to more than what I made at the hospital. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Family dinner Sunday, 6 p.m. Don't be late. I sighed. Family dinners at my parents' house were never really about spending time together. They were about what Mom and Dad needed from me this time. Last month, it was money for Tyler's car repair. The month before that, it was help with their mortgage payment when Dad's hours got cut at work. But I always showed up. I always said yes. Because that's what good daughters do, right? Sunday evening, I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home. The house looked exactly the same as it did when I left for college 10 years ago. Same peeling paint on the front door. Same crooked mailbox that Dad never got around to fixing. Same feeling in my stomach that I was walking into a trap. Tyler's brand new pickup truck was parked in the driveway. It was huge, shiny, and probably cost more than I made in 6 months. I wondered how he afforded it on his part-time job at the auto shop. Rebecca! Mom called out as I walked through the front door. Perfect timing. I just put the roast in the oven. Dad was in his usual spot in the living room, remote in hand, watching some sports game. He barely looked up when I said hello. Where's Tyler? I asked, setting my purse down on the kitchen counter. He's in his room. Had a rough day at work, Mom said, stirring something on the stove. You know how hard he works. I almost laughed. Tyler's idea of a rough day was showing up on time, but I bit my tongue. No point in starting an argument before dinner even began. During dinner, the conversation was light. Mom talked about her book club. Dad complained about his boss. Tyler scrolled through his phone and barely said 10 words the entire meal. Then came the moment I'd been dreading. Rebecca, honey, Dad said, setting down his fork. We need to talk to you about something. Here we go, I thought. My stomach dropped. Tyler's been looking at apartments, Mom chimed in. He found this perfect place in downtown. Really nice. Great for a young man starting his career. I waited for the other shoe to drop. The thing is, Dad continued, the deposit is pretty steep. And first month's rent. Plus he needs some furniture, moving expenses, all that. How much? I asked, though I already knew I didn't want to hear the answer. Well, the deposit is $2,000. First month's rent is $1,500. And he probably needs about $3,000 for furniture and stuff, Mom said casually like she was talking about the weather. $6,500. They wanted me to give Tyler $6,500. That's a lot of money, I said quietly. We know it's a big ask, Dad said, but you're doing so well. You've got that good nursing job, and you're always so responsible with money. Tyler finally looked up from his phone. I'll pay you back, sis. I promise. The same promise he'd made about the $800 for his motorcycle. The same promise he'd made about the $1,200 for his girlfriend's birthday trip. The same promise he'd made about the $500 for his car insurance. Promises he'd never kept. I don't know, I said. I've got my own bills to worry about. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Rebecca, Mom said, her voice getting that edge to it. Tyler is family. Family helps family. I help plenty, I said, feeling my face get hot. I helped with your mortgage last year. I paid for Dad's medical bills when he hurt his back. I bought Tyler's car insurance for 6 months when he couldn't afford it. And we appreciate all of that, Dad said. But this is important. Tyler needs to get out on his own. He needs to start his life. What about my life? I wanted to scream. What about my dreams? What about the money I'd been saving to maybe buy a house of my own someday? But I looked around the table at their expectant faces, and I felt that familiar weight of obligation settling on my shoulders. I need to think about it, I said finally. Tyler's face fell. Come on, Rebecca. Don't be like that. Like what? I asked. Selfish, he said simply. The word hit me like a slap. Selfish. After everything I'd done for this family, after every sacrifice I'd made, I was selfish for hesitating to hand over my life savings. I said, I need to think about it. I repeated, standing up from the table. Where are you going? Mom asked. Home. I have work tomorrow. As I drove back to my apartment, their words echoed in my head. Selfish. The good daughter. Family helps family. But when exactly had they helped me? The next few days passed in a blur of 12-hour shifts at the hospital. Every spare moment, I found myself thinking about Tyler's request. $6,500. That was almost every penny I'd managed to save over the past 2 years. By Friday, I'd made my decision. I would give Tyler the money, but this would be the last time. I was done being the family ATM. I called Mom to tell her I'd help with Tyler's apartment. Oh, wonderful, she said. I knew you'd come through. You always do. But this is the last time, I said firmly. I can't keep doing this. Of course, honey. We understand. Tyler just needs this one boost to get started. We arranged for me to come over Saturday afternoon to give Tyler the money. As I hung up the phone, I tried to push away the feeling that I was making a huge mistake. Saturday morning, I went to the bank and withdrew $6,500 in cash. The teller looked at me strangely when I asked for it in hundreds, but I didn't care. I wanted Tyler to see exactly how much money this was. I decided to stop by the grocery store on my way to my parents' house. Maybe I'd make my famous lasagna for dinner. It might help ease the tension of handing over my life savings. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Tyler's truck was gone. Only Mom and Dad's cars were there. I grabbed the grocery bags and headed for the front door. But as I reached for the doorknob, I heard voices coming from the kitchen window, which was cracked open to let in the cool afternoon air. I can't believe she actually said yes, Tyler's voice drifted out. I froze, my hand on the door handle. I told you she would, Dad's voice replied. Rebecca never says no to family. This is perfect, Tyler continued. Now I can get that apartment and still have money left over for the gaming setup I wanted. Gaming setup? The money was supposed to be for furniture and moving expenses. Just remember, Mom's voice joined in, when Rebecca starts complaining about money again, you don't know anything about any gaming setup. They all laughed. My blood turned to ice in my veins. Honestly, Tyler said, it's almost too easy. Rebecca's such a pushover. We could probably get another few thousand out of her before Christmas if we play our cards right. Don't push it too hard, Dad warned. We need to keep her thinking she's the good daughter, the responsible one. Right, Tyler agreed. As long as she keeps believing that family comes first, she'll keep paying for whatever we need. And if she ever gets smart and tries to say no, Mom added, we'll just make her feel guilty about abandoning family. More laughter. I stood there on the front porch, grocery bags in my hands, listening to my family plot about how to manipulate me out of more money. My own parents and brother were sitting around their kitchen table, laughing about how easy it was to take advantage of me. The lasagna ingredients suddenly felt impossibly heavy in my hands. 29 years. 29 years of being the good daughter. 29 years of putting their needs before my own. 29 years of believing that family meant sacrifice and love and support. But this wasn't love. This was exploitation. I stood there for another few minutes, listening to them continue their conversation about Tyler's apartment and how they'd approach me for money the next time they needed something. They talked about me like I was a bank account with legs, not a person with feelings and dreams and needs of my own. Finally, I'd heard enough. I quietly walked back to my car, put the groceries in the back seat, and drove home. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. Back in my apartment, I sat on my couch and stared at the envelope containing $6,500. Money I'd saved by working extra shifts. Money I'd saved by eating ramen noodles for lunch instead of buying food from the hospital cafeteria. Money I'd saved by driving my old car instead of getting something newer. Money they thought they were entitled to. Money they thought I was too stupid and too nice to ever refuse them. But as I sat there, something shifted inside me. The hurt and betrayal slowly transformed into something else. Something harder. Something that had been building for years without me even realizing it. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to be the good daughter. I was going to be the daughter who fought back. And I was going to take everything. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The hurt from yesterday had crystallized into something sharp and focused. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was determined. I spent Sunday researching. I pulled out every document I could find related to money I'd given my family over the years. Bank statements, canceled checks, text messages asking for help. I'd been keeping track without even realizing it. The numbers were staggering. Over the past 5 years, I'd given them over $15,000. Money for car repairs, medical bills, mortgage payments, Tyler's insurance, Dad's tools, Mom's dental work. The list went on and on. But here's what really got to me. I found the paperwork from when I'd co-signed for Tyler's truck. The truck he'd bought 6 months ago. The truck with payments of $450 a month that I was legally responsible for if he couldn't pay. Tyler had told me he just needed a co-signer to get a better interest rate. He swore he could afford the payments himself. But looking at the documents now, I realized the loan was structured so that if he missed even one payment, I'd be on the hook for the entire thing. My phone rang. Mom. Rebecca. Honey, Tyler's going to look at that apartment again today. He's so excited. When did you want to come by with the money? Actually, I said, my voice steady, I need to talk to all of you about something first. Can we meet tonight? Of course. Come for dinner. I'll make that pot roast you like. No, I said firmly. I'll come by at 7. After dinner. This is business. There was a pause. Business? Rebecca, what's going on? I'll explain tonight. I hung up before she could ask more questions. The rest of the day I prepared. I printed out bank statements. I organized receipts. I calculated interest on every loan I'd given them that they'd never paid back. I even researched small claims court procedures, just in case. At exactly 7 o'clock, I knocked on my parents' front door. Tyler answered, grinning widely. Hey sis, ready to make me a homeowner? Renter, I corrected, and we need to talk. I walked into the living room where Mom and Dad were waiting. I sat down across from them and placed a folder on the coffee table. What's all this? Dad asked, eyeing the papers. This is a complete record of every dollar I've given this family over the past 5 years, I said calmly, including dates, amounts, and the reasons you gave me for needing the money. Tyler's smile faltered. Rebecca, what's going on? Why are you being so serious? Because I did some thinking, I said, and I realized that I've been treating our relationship like a bank account instead of a family. That's not true, Mom protested. We're family. We help each other. Do we? I asked. When's the last time any of you helped me with anything? The room went quiet. I work 12-hour shifts at the hospital, I continued. I come home exhausted, and instead of resting, I pick up extra shifts to save money. Money that somehow always ends up going to solve your problems. We appreciate everything you do, Dad said carefully. Do you? Because from where I sit, it looks like you've gotten very comfortable with me being your personal ATM. Tyler laughed nervously. Come on, Rebecca. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic. I opened the folder and pulled out a spreadsheet. In the past 5 years, I've given you $15,847. That's not including the truck loan I co-signed for, which makes me responsible for another $18,000 if you default. Their faces went pale. Tyler, I said, looking directly at my brother, you currently owe me $3,200 from various loans you promised to pay back. The oldest one is from 2 years ago. You haven't made a single payment on any of them. I've been meaning to, Tyler started. No, I cut him off. You haven't been meaning to do anything. You've been counting on me being too nice to ask for it back. Rebecca, Mom said, her voice getting that warning tone. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying that I'm done being taken advantage of. I'm saying that before I give Tyler another dime, I want to see payment plans for everything he already owes me. The room erupted. You can't be serious, Tyler said, jumping to his feet. We're family. Families don't keep score, Dad added. You're right, I said. Families don't keep score. But banks do. And apparently, that's what I am to you people. For the next hour, they tried every trick in the book. They guilt-tripped me about family loyalty. They reminded me of all the times they'd supported me growing up. They even brought up Christmas presents they'd bought me as a kid. But I stood firm. No payment plan for existing debts, no new loans. Finally, Tyler stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Mom and Dad sat in stunned silence. I can't believe you're doing this, Mom said quietly. I can't believe it took me this long, I replied. I left that night feeling lighter than I had in years. For the first time, I'd stood up for myself. I'd drawn boundaries. I'd said no, but my relief was short-lived. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No calls from Mom asking about my day. No texts from Tyler sharing funny memes. No requests for small favors or quick loans. I told myself this was what I wanted. Peace. Freedom from their constant financial demands. But by Thursday, I was starting to worry. Had I been too harsh? Were they planning something? Or were they just giving me the silent treatment? My answer came Friday afternoon. I was at work, finishing up my shift when my phone rang. It was my bank. Ms. Rebecca, this is Janet from First National. I'm calling about your checking account. There's been some unusual activity. My heart started racing. What kind of activity? Well, there was a large withdrawal yesterday. $6,500. The transaction was approved, but it seemed unusual for your account. So I wanted to verify it with you. I didn't make any withdrawal, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The withdrawal was made at our downtown branch, with your debit card and PIN. My debit card was in my purse. I checked. Still there. Are you sure it was my card? I asked. Yes, ma'am. I'm looking at the security footage now. It was definitely your card. My mind raced. How was that possible? Unless... Can you describe the person who made the withdrawal? Young man, early 20s, brown hair. He seemed to know exactly what he was doing. Tyler, ma'am, should I freeze your account? Yes, I said, my voice getting stronger. Freeze it immediately. I want to file a fraud report. Of course. Can you come in as soon as possible? I hung up and immediately called my parents' house. No answer. I called Tyler's phone. Straight to voicemail. I left work early and drove straight to the bank. The security footage was clear as day. Tyler, using what looked exactly like my debit card, withdrawing $6,500 from my account. But how? I'd never given him my card. I'd never told him my PIN. As I sat in the bank manager's office, filing a fraud report, the pieces started falling into place. Last month, when I'd helped Mom with groceries, I'd used my card at the store. Tyler had been there. He'd been standing right behind me when I entered my PIN. And my card. I remembered now. I'd left my purse in the kitchen for a few minutes while I helped Dad fix something in the garage. Tyler had been alone in the kitchen. He'd somehow copied my card and memorized my PIN. What happens now? I asked the bank manager. We'll investigate, but since you have clear evidence of fraud, we'll restore the funds to your account within 3 business days. In the meantime, we'll issue you a new card with a new PIN. I drove home in a daze. My own brother had literally stolen money from me. Not just borrowed without asking. Stolen. But that wasn't even the worst part. When I got home, there was a message on my answering machine from Tyler. Hey, Rebecca! Just wanted to let you know I got the apartment. Thanks for the help with the deposit. I know we had that weird conversation the other day, but I figured you were just having a bad day. Family's family, right? I'll call you later. He actually thought I'd given him the money willingly. He'd stolen $6,500 from me and then called to thank me for it. I sat in my apartment, staring at my phone. I had 2 choices. I could call the police and have my own brother arrested for theft, or I could handle this myself. But as I thought about it, I realized something. Tyler stealing from me wasn't just about the money. It was about power. It was about him believing he could take whatever he wanted from me, and I'd just roll over and take it. He'd stolen my money, but he'd also stolen something else. My trust, my love, my belief that family meant something. And now, he was about to find out that some things, once stolen, can never be returned. I picked up my phone and started making calls. But I wasn't calling the police. I was calling in favors. Because Tyler had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He'd messed with the wrong sister. And tomorrow, he was going to wake up in his new apartment to discover that his old life was completely gone. Saturday morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. with a smile on my face. For the first time in years, I had a plan that had nothing to do with making other people happy. My first call was to my friend Jessica, who worked at the auto loan company that financed Tyler's truck. We'd gone to nursing school together, and she owed me a favor for covering her shifts when her mom was sick. Hey, Jess, I need to ask you about something. My brother Tyler has a loan with your company. I'm the co-signer. Oh, yeah, Tyler Mitchell. I remember that file. What's up? I want to know my options for removing myself as co-signer. There was a pause. Rebecca, you can't just remove yourself from an existing loan. The only way out is if the primary borrower refinances on their own, or if the loan gets paid off completely. What if the primary borrower can't make payments? Then, as co-signer, you'd be responsible. But if you wanted to, you could pay off the loan and then pursue collection from the primary borrower. A plan started forming in my head. What's the current balance on Tyler's loan? Let me check. $16,800. And if I paid that off today, the truck would be mine. Well, technically you'd own it free and clear, yes. But Rebecca, that's a lot of money. Are you sure? I'm sure. Can you email me the payoff information? Next, I called my cousin Danny, who owned a towing company. Danny had always been the black sheep of the family, and he had no love for Tyler after Tyler had borrowed Danny's tools last year and never returned them. Danny, I need a favor. A big one. Name it, cuz. I need you to tow a truck for me. Today. Whose truck? Tyler's. There was a long pause, then Danny started laughing. Oh man, what did that little punk do now? I told him everything. The stolen money, the years of unpaid loans, the conversation I'd overheard. By the time I finished, Danny was furious. That little thief. Rebecca, you should have called me years ago. I would have straightened him out I'm calling you now. Can you help me? Hell yes. When do you want me to pick it up? This afternoon. I'll text you the address of his new apartment. My final call was to my friend Marcus at the police department. We dated briefly a few years ago and we'd stayed friends. He was a good cop, honest and fair. Hey Marcus, I need some advice. My brother stole money from my bank account. Jesus, Rebecca, are you okay? Do you want to press charges? Maybe. But I want to understand my options first. If I have clear evidence that he took the money without permission, what happens? That's theft, plain and simple. With $6,500, it's a felony. He could be looking at serious jail time. What if I wanted to handle it privately first? Give him a chance to make it right. That's your choice. But Rebecca, family or not, theft is theft. Don't let him walk all over you. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment and went over my plan one more time. It was risky, but it was fair. Tyler had stolen from me, and now he was going to learn that actions have consequences. I drove to the bank and had them cut a cashier's check for $16,800 to pay off Tyler's truck loan. It hurt to write that check, but I knew I'd get the money back one way or another. Then I drove to the auto loan company and paid off the loan in full. The truck was now legally mine. Next stop was Tyler's new apartment. It was in a trendy part of downtown, exactly the kind of place a 24-year-old would want to live. Way too expensive for someone who worked part-time at an auto shop. I parked across the street and called Danny. I'm here. The truck's in spot 47 in the parking garage. On my way. While I waited, I composed a text message to Tyler. Hey Tyler, we need to talk. Come to Mom and Dad's house at 6 p.m. tonight. Bring the $6,500 you took from my account yesterday. We're going to figure this out as a family. I hit send and waited. 20 minutes later, Danny's tow truck pulled up. He was grinning from ear to ear. This is going to be fun, he said, climbing out of the cab. It took less than 10 minutes to hook up Tyler's truck and load it onto the flatbed. A few people in the parking garage stopped to watch, but nobody questioned us. Danny looked official enough, and I had the paperwork proving I owned the truck. As we pulled away, my phone started ringing. Tyler. Rebecca. What the hell? Someone just stole my truck. Nobody stole your truck, Tyler. I had it repossessed. You what? You can't do that. Actually, I can. I was the co-signer on the loan, remember? I just paid it off in full, which means the truck belongs to me now. Are you insane? That's my truck. It was your truck. Now it's mine. Just like that $6,500 was mine before you stole it. There was a long silence. Then Tyler's voice got quiet and dangerous. You better bring my truck back right now. Or what? You'll call the police? Go ahead. I'd love to explain to them how you committed felony theft yesterday. I didn't steal anything. You gave me that money. Really? When did I give it to you, Tyler? Because I have security footage of you using my debit card at the bank. A card you stole from my purse. And a pin you memorized by spying on me. Another silence. Look, Tyler said, his voice changing to the wheedling tone he used when he wanted something. This is getting out of hand. We're family. We can work this out. You're right. We can work this out. Come to Mom and Dad's house tonight at 6. Bring the $6,500 you stole. We'll talk. I don't have $6,500. I used it for the apartment deposit and... Then you better figure out how to get it, because until you pay me back, your truck stays with me. I hung up. Danny had taken the truck to his impound lot, which was secure and legal. Tyler couldn't get it back without my permission, and I wasn't giving permission until I got my money back. The rest of the afternoon, my phone rang constantly. Tyler called 17 times. Mom called 12 times. Dad called 8 times. I ignored them all. At 5:30, I drove to my parents' house. All three of them were waiting in the living room when I walked in. Tyler looked like he'd been crying. Mom and Dad looked furious. "Rebecca, what is wrong with you?" Mom demanded before I even sat down. "What's wrong with me? What's wrong with Tyler? He stole $6,500 from me." "He didn't steal anything," Dad said. "He just took what you were going to give him anyway." "I was going to give him the money before I found out you were all laughing about how easy it was to manipulate me. Before I realized he was planning to spend it on video games instead of furniture." Tyler's face went white. You heard us talking?" "I heard everything. I heard you call me a pushover. I heard you planning how to get more money out of me before Christmas. I heard Mom and Dad coaching you on how to make me feel guilty if I ever said no." The room went dead silent. "So here's how this is going to work," I continued. "Tyler is going to pay me back the $6,500 he stole, plus interest, plus the $3,200 he already owed me from previous loans. That's $9,700 total." "We don't have that kind of money," Mom said. "Then Tyler should have thought of that before he became a thief. Until I get my money back, I'm keeping his truck." "You can't do that," Tyler said desperately. "I need that truck for work." "You should have thought of that before you stole from me." "This is ridiculous," Dad said, standing up. "You're acting like a child. We're family. We don't treat each other like this." "You're right," I said. "Family doesn't treat each other like this. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't manipulate each other. Family doesn't laugh about taking advantage of each other." "We never," Mom started. "I heard you," I said firmly. "I heard every word. And you know what? I'm done. I'm done being the family bank. I'm done being the one who always says yes. I'm done being the good daughter who gets taken advantage of." I stood up and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Tyler called after me. "Home. You have 48 hours to come up with $9,700. If you don't, I'm selling the truck to cover what you owe me." "You wouldn't," Mom said, but her voice was uncertain. "Try me." I walked out of the house and got in my car. As I drove away, I could see them through the living room window, all three of them talking frantically. Back at my apartment, I sat down at my computer and started researching the value of Tyler's truck. It was worth about $22,000, more than enough to cover what he owed me. I also started looking into other things, like the fact that Tyler had been telling people he owned his apartment when he was actually just renting, like the fact that he'd been posting on social media about his expensive new gaming setup, even though he claimed to be broke. But the biggest discovery came when I logged into my credit report to make sure Tyler hadn't opened any accounts in my name. He hadn't, but I found something else. Mom and Dad had missed their mortgage payment last month, and the month before that. Their house was in pre-foreclosure. Suddenly, Tyler's urgent need for an apartment made sense. He wasn't moving out to start his adult life. He was moving out because Mom and Dad were about to lose their house, and they'd been planning to use my money to solve their problem, just like they always did. But this time, I wasn't going to save them. This time, they were going to have to save themselves. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Most of them were from Tyler begging me to give him his truck back. Some were from Mom and Dad, alternating between guilt trips and threats. But the most interesting message was from my Aunt Linda, Mom's sister. She'd called at 2 a.m., and she sounded drunk. "Rebecca, honey, your mom called me crying tonight. She told me what's happening with Tyler and the truck. I just want you to know you're doing the right thing. Your parents have been taking advantage of you for years, and it's about time someone stood up to them. Don't let them guilt you into backing down. You're stronger than they think you are." I saved that message because I had a feeling I was going to need all the strength I could get. Tyler's 48 hours were almost up, and I hadn't heard a word about my money. But I had heard something else. From my friend at the bank, who'd called to tell me that someone had been asking questions about my account. Someone who wanted to know if there were any other ways to access my money. Someone who wasn't giving up. Someone who was about to learn that I wasn't the same person I used to be. And tomorrow, when Tyler's time ran out, he was going to discover that I'd been planning something much bigger than just taking his truck. I was about to take everything. The 48 hours were up at 6 p.m. on Tuesday. I sat in my apartment, watching the clock tick past the deadline. No call from Tyler. No text. No apology. No money. Just silence. At 6:15, I called Danny. "Time's up. Let's sell the truck." "You got it, cuz. I already have 3 buyers lined up. One guy's offering $21,500 cash." "Perfect. Set it up for tomorrow." But as I hung up, I realized something. Taking Tyler's truck wasn't enough anymore. They'd shown me exactly what they thought of me, and now I was going to show them what happened when you push the wrong person too far. I spent the evening making phone calls and doing research. By midnight, I had a plan that would change everything. Wednesday morning, I took a personal day from work. I had business to handle. My first stop was the courthouse. I filed a small claims suit against Tyler for the $9,700 he owed me. The filing fee was $150, but it was worth it to make this official. Next, I went to Danny's lot and signed the paperwork to sell Tyler's truck. The buyer was a nice older man who needed a reliable vehicle for his landscaping business. He paid me $21,500 in cash. After deducting the $9,700 Tyler owed me, I still had $11,800 left over. Legally, that money belonged to Tyler, but I wasn't done with him yet. My third stop was the bank. I opened a new savings account and deposited the $11,800. Then I had the bank draft a letter to Tyler, explaining that his truck had been sold to satisfy his debt and that the remaining proceeds were being held in trust until he contacted me. But here's the thing about Tyler. He never read anything carefully. He never paid attention to details, and he certainly never followed through on anything. I was counting on that. My final stop was the office of a private investigator named Karen Walsh. She was a former police detective who specialized in financial fraud cases. I'd found her online, and her reviews were excellent. "I need you to investigate my family," I told her, sliding a folder across her desk. "I think they've been lying to me about money for years." Karen flipped through the documents I'd prepared. Bank statements, loan applications, tax returns I'd helped them prepare. Everything I could find. "What exactly are you looking for?" she asked. "The truth. I want to know where their money really goes. I want to know if they're hiding assets. I want to know if they've been scamming anyone else." This is going to take some time, and it's not cheap. I don't care what it costs. I want to know everything. Karen quoted me a price that made me wince, but I agreed. Some things were worth paying for. That afternoon, Tyler finally called. "Rebecca, what the hell? Someone told me you sold my truck." "I did. You owed me $9,700, remember? The truck sold for $21,500. So after deducting what you owed me, there's $11,800 left. It's in an account at the bank waiting for you. You can't just sell my truck." It wasn't your truck anymore. I owned it free and clear. And since you didn't pay me back by the deadline, I had every right to sell it. Tyler started screaming at me, calling me names I won't repeat. But I just listened calmly until he ran out of steam. "Are you done?" I asked. "I'm going to sue you." "Good luck with that. I have all the paperwork showing I legally own the truck. But speaking of lawsuits, you should check your mail. You're being served with papers for the small claims suit I filed against you." "What lawsuit?" "The one for the money you stole from me. Turns out theft is still illegal, even when it's family." Tyler hung up on me. 10 minutes later, Mom called. "Rebecca, I can't believe you're doing this to your own family." "I'm not doing anything to my family. I'm protecting myself from people who have been taking advantage of me for years. We never took advantage of you. Mom, I heard you. I heard all of you laughing about how easy it was to manipulate me. I heard you planning how to get more money out of me. That's not, we didn't mean. Yes, you did. And now you're facing the consequences. Rebecca, we need to talk. Can you come over tonight? Why? So you can try to guilt me into giving you more money. We're family. We should be able to work this out. You're right. We should. But that would require you to treat me like family instead of like a bank account. Please, Rebecca, just come over. Let's talk about this like adults. Something in her voice made me pause. She sounded desperate. Scared even. Fine. I'll be there at 7. But I'm not bringing my checkbook. I hung up and immediately called Karen Walsh. I need you to run that background check faster. Something's going on, and I need to know what it is before tonight. I'll make some calls. Give me 2 hours. At 5:30, Karen called me back. Rebecca, you need to sit down for this. What did you find? Your parents are in serious financial trouble. They're 3 months behind on their mortgage. They owe $14,000 in credit card debt, and they just took out a second mortgage on their house last month. A second mortgage? For how much? $50,000. I felt sick. Where did that money go? That's where it gets interesting. Most of it went to pay off existing debts. But $12,000 went to something called Miller Investment Group. I've never heard of that. Neither had I, until I did some digging. Miller Investment Group is a pyramid scheme. They promise huge returns on investments, but it's all fake. Your parents got scammed. How do you know? Because Miller Investment Group was shut down by the FBI last week. The owner was arrested for fraud. Anyone who invested with them lost everything. The pieces were falling into place. Mom and Dad had been scammed out of $12,000. They were behind on their mortgage. They were drowning in debt. And they'd been planning to use my money to save themselves. There's more, Karen continued. Your brother Tyler has been working with your parents on this. He's been using the money you gave him to help pay their bills. The apartment, the truck, all of it was part of a plan to make you think he was becoming independent, so you'd give him more money. But he really did move out. Yes, but not because he wanted to. Because your parents can't afford to support him anymore. They're losing their house, Rebecca. They've got maybe 2 months before foreclosure. I sat in my car outside the private investigator's office, trying to process what I'd learned. My parents weren't just irresponsible with money. They were desperate. They'd been scammed, and now they were facing the loss of their home. Part of me felt sorry for them, but a bigger part of me was angry. Even facing financial ruin, their first instinct had been to manipulate me into saving them instead of being honest about their situation. If they'd just told me the truth from the beginning, I might have helped them. But they'd chosen to lie, to steal, to manipulate. And now it was too late. I drove to my parents' house with a heavy heart. Whatever happened tonight, nothing would ever be the same between us. Tyler's car was in the driveway, along with 2 other cars I didn't recognize. As I walked to the front door, I could hear voices inside. Multiple voices. I knocked and Dad answered. His face was red and blotchy, like he'd been crying. Rebecca, thank God you're here. We need to talk. I walked into the living room and stopped dead. Tyler was there along with Mom and Dad. But there were also 2 other people I didn't recognize. A man in an expensive suit and a woman with a briefcase. Who are these people? I asked. This is our financial advisor, Mom said quickly. And this is someone from the bank. The man in the suit stood up. Ms. Rebecca, I'm David Chin from Rescue Financial Services. Your parents have asked me to help mediate this family dispute. I looked around the room. Everyone was staring at me with desperate, hopeful expressions. What kind of mediation? I asked. Well, David said, your parents have explained the situation. They're facing some financial difficulties, and they believe you might be able to help them avoid foreclosure. How much do they need? Well, ideally about $75,000 would solve all their problems. $75,000. They wanted me to give them $75,000. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. The whole situation was so absurd. You think I have $75,000? I asked. We know you've been saving money, Mom said. And with your nursing salary, you could probably get a loan. Stop, I said firmly. Just stop. I looked around the room at all their faces. Desperate, greedy, manipulative faces. I know about the second mortgage, I said quietly. I know about the pyramid scheme. I know about the $12,000 you lost to Miller Investment Group. The room went dead silent. I know you've been lying to me about everything. I know Tyler's been helping you spend my money to pay your bills. I know you're losing the house. Mom started crying. Dad put his head in his hands. Tyler just stared at me. And you know what? I continued. I might have helped you. If you'd been honest with me from the beginning, I might have found a way to help you save your house. You still can, the woman with the briefcase said. There's still time. No, I said, standing up. There's not, because they didn't just lie to me. They stole from me, and now they're trying to manipulate me one more time. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Tyler, there's $11,800 waiting for you at the bank from the sale of your truck. It's legally yours, but to get it, you have to come to the bank in person and sign some paperwork. What kind of paperwork? Tyler asked suspiciously. The kind that admits you stole $6,500 from me. The kind that agrees to a payment plan for the rest of what you owe me. The kind that makes our arrangement legal and official. Tyler's face went white. I'm not signing anything. Then you don't get the money. That's extortion, the man in the suit said. No, I replied. That's consequences. I walked out of the house and got in my car. As I drove away, I could see them through the living room window, all of them arguing frantically. My phone started ringing before I even made it to the end of the street. Mom, Dad, Tyler, even the financial advisor. I ignored them all. Back at my apartment, I sat down and did something I hadn't done in years. I made plans for myself. Real plans. Plans that had nothing to do with my family's problems. I was going to buy a house. A nice house with a big yard and a garden. I was going to take that vacation to Europe I'd been dreaming about. I was going to live my life for me, not for people who saw me as nothing more than a walking ATM. But first, I had one more surprise for my family. Because Karen Walsh had found something else in her investigation. Something that was going to change everything. And tomorrow, when my family woke up thinking they'd hit rock bottom, they were going to discover that they hadn't even started falling yet. Because I wasn't just taking back what they'd stolen from me. I was about to take everything they had left.